After a long night of working on a group project for school, Mike was walking home. His college was in a small rural town around a half hour away from his house. He had walked this path alone hundreds of times before, but tonight will be quite different. The secluded road barely had any cars passing through. Some portions didn't even have streetlights. Up ahead, he can see the long stretch of the Stone Arch Bridge, a beautiful old structure that sometimes shows up in the town's postcards. At night, it does look a bit eerie. There are rumors that the bridge is haunted, but of the many times Mike has passed through this area, he hasn't experienced anything strange. Hello? A woman's voice calls out, startling Mike. Who's there? There, on the side of the road, is a young woman around his age. She had pale skin, black hair, and was wearing a strangely old-fashioned dress. Mike swallowed loudly before asking her, "Can I help you?" "Sorry to startle you. My name is Marie. I was wondering if you were planning to cross the bridge, because I'd like to have somebody to accompany me. I'm scared to cross alone. I heard that it's haunted." Mike thought about it. The girl was very pretty. What could go wrong, he thought. "My name is Mike." "Cool. How old are you, Mike?" 17? Marie smiles. "Same age as me." Mike agreed to walk with her, and soon they were on their way. "You seem to be too young for college," Marie said. "Yeah, I got accelerated in high school." "Smart guy. You must not be superstitious." "Not really, no." Marie goes on to explain that she heard the bridge was haunted by the souls of children. Mike asked if the kids drowned, but Marie said no. "What happened to them?" Marie explained. The builders of old Spanish-style stone bridges like these have a tradition passed down from generation to generation. To ensure that the bridge will remain strong for 100 years, there must be a sacrifice. What sacrifice? The bodies and blood of a child or teenager mixed in with the foundation. It sent chills down Mike's spine. As much as he didn't want to believe it, he is clearly nervous about hearing this story. "Well, clearly it didn't work, because I heard there will be repairs for the bridge's foundation this month," he nervously said. "Yes? But it's been 100 years since the bridge last needed repairs." "How do you know this?" Mike asked. He realized that Marie is no longer following him. He looked behind him. Marie was standing there, head bowed. There are tears in her eyes, because I'm part of that tradition. "You're not a ghost?" She shook her head. Shadowy figures now appear behind Mike. "Sorry, Mike. You're 17. You're still qualified." Mike realized he is surrounded. Family tradition. The search for Mike continues until this day. He's inside the cement foundation of the bridge, along with other dead kids. They will never find him, even if they search for another 100 years.
The Devil's Highway, they called it, Mark said. "But it's not Highway 666 anymore, Mark. It's 491 now," Paul replied. Doesn't stop the accidents and the hauntings, though. Paul gulps down his coffee. Yeah? Well, Satan didn't build the highway. My grandpa did. Mark tells Paul that the rumors are true. The highway is cursed. Just the other day, the news that there was a brutal accident on the road. After an accident, a woman burned alive inside her car. That's as close to hell as one can get. Are you just trying to scare me because it's my first day? Is this some kind of an initiation for new drivers? Mark laughs. Accidents happen on highways every day, Paul replied. The clock on the walls says 2 p.m. The men pick up their coats and left the restaurant. Paul goes into his truck and turns on his two-way radio. He hears Mark say, "Take care, bud." "Yeah, thanks for recommending me to your boss. Really stoked to do this job, man." And he drives off into the long stretch of desert ahead of him. Miles and miles of empty land stretch out before him. There are no city lights, so the night is only illuminated by the moon and the stars. Mark would tell jokes on the radio. "So a guy and his horse got into a bar." Paul is laughing. He stops the truck. He looks out his window. There is nothing there, just an empty road. He gets back into his truck, shakes his head, and drives on. Miles and miles of empty land lay out before him. He is starting to feel sleepy. "I better get used to these hours. Coffee's not enough," he says on the radio. "It gets much better over time. Your body gets used to the abuse." Paul laughs. We see the woman again, but this time her jacket has some blood. Paul looks back in shock. He doesn't see her anymore. Paul sighs. "Man, I think your stories got into my head." Mark makes fun of him. "Scaredy cat, scaredy cat."
Scaredy cat.
Paul is stunned. "Hello?" He waits for an answer. There is none. An hour more of driving. There is nothing but static on the radio. The radio turns on. Through the static, we hear a woman's voice, garbled.
Confess.
Paul tries to up the volume, but the voice is gone. It's all static again. Throughout the rest of the ride, Paul becomes increasingly anxious, sweat running down his eyebrows. Finally, he stops his truck, rolls down the window, and goes down. He confronts the woman. "What do you want?" The woman is gone. Then, he sees it on his mirror. She is behind him, pointing at him. Her face with blood, her body broken. Paul rushes to his truck. He quickly drives off. The radio turns on with a demonic voice.
Confess your sins.
He turns it off, but it turns on again.
Confess.
He hits it over and over and over. Now there is dead silence in the van. He tries to close the window.
Confess.
He closes his eyes. "I did it. I ran over her. It was me. I'm sorry. I was drunk. The girl is gone. He stops the truck. Paul breathes a sigh of relief. The radio turns on. What? It was his friend, Mark. You ran over the woman? Please tell me this is a joke. Paul pauses. He thinks about what he will do next. He starts driving again. He picks up the radio. He laughs. Yeah, that was just a joke.
Liar!
He couldn't see the road. He swerves, the truck careering out of control. Up ahead, a steep drop. He manages to brake and the truck stops, just a few inches before a deep ravine. Paul goes out of the truck, crying. He kneels down, seeing the steep chasm where he almost fell. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There is absolute silence. Just him, his truck, and the empty land. He stands up and turns and walks away.
Too late.
He turns around. So, Paul, how's your first night on the Devil's Highway? On the empty stretch of the road, there is only the truck and nothing else. Paul?
Mary was sitting in her tiny dark room, mindlessly scrolling through the dating app on her phone. It's been a slow night and no one particularly attractive or interesting caught her attention. Her cramped bedroom was located on the 5th floor of an old apartment complex. She would often look around her room and wonder if it was worth it to move from their tiny farm into the big city. Sure, it was less boring and more fast-paced life. However, the crowded streets, the low-paying fast food job, and the tiny apartment made her second-guess her decision all the time. There was one good thing about the city, though. It was that dating was way more attractive and diverse. She finally matched with a guy on the app. His name was Jeremy. She thought he had a cute smile, hot bod, and expressive eyes. His profile pic was on a yacht. He messaged her first, calling her a cutie. She was quite flattered and thought the same about him. He described himself as a self-made businessman. He sent her pictures of his car, his house, and his properties. The chat went on for several hours. The conversation was so much fun that Mary didn't even notice that it was past midnight. She said she had to go, but she gave him the link to her social networks. This was a decision she would soon come to regret. As she's about to fall asleep, she grabbed Jeremy's photo from his account and reverse searched the image. What she found disappointed her. It was a stock photo of a European male model. The account was fake. She quickly blocked him on her dating app and on all social media. At around 3 in the morning, she woke up to what sounded like a low buzzing sound outside her window. She got up and slowly walked toward the curtainless window. But as she walked, the buzzing sound seemed farther away until it was completely gone. Confused and still half asleep, she went back to her bed and dozed off. That morning, she woke up to a dozen messages on her phone. It's Jeremy. Somehow he managed to find her number, and the messages were creepy. I thought we had a connection. I always get what I want, you'll see. I know where you are. She's stunned, her eyes widened with fear. She immediately blocks the number, ignored it, and went to work. Mary was behind the drive-thru counter that day. It was a hectic day and they were getting swamped with orders. Her phone started vibrating and she secretly looked at it while waiting for the next order. It was from an anonymous number. What she saw shocked her. It was a picture of her sleeping, taken from outside her window. The message read, "Come to the window again tonight. I love seeing you." She snapped out of it when the next customer's order came into her headset. "Hi, I would like to order a cheeseburger meal, please," the old man said. She prepared the order and hands it to the guy. "Thank you, have a nice day," Mary said. The guy replied, "I always get what I want." This sent chills down Mary's spine. She immediately looks out the drive-thru window, but the car and the man are gone. That night, she asked one of her coworkers to accompany her home, but no one was willing to do so. So she walked to her house alone. She passed by a curtain shop, but it was already closed. She was disappointed because she was thinking of buying curtains to cover her windows. To get to her house, she had to go up a steep, isolated street surrounded by trees. Suddenly, she had the weird feeling of being watched. She stopped and looked around. Nothing. No one. Suddenly her phone vibrates and she opens the message. When she opened it, she stopped dead in her tracks. Her breathing becomes heavier and sweat started running down her face. It was a picture of her in front of the curtain shop. She started sprinting, but then she hears it, the low, buzzing sound from the night before. She turned around. There was still no one there. Then she realized where the sound was coming from. It was from above. She looked up and saw a drone with a camera hovering over her. She gasped as she realized that the night before, the same drone was outside her window, watching her sleep. The drone was flying lower and lower, coming closer to her. In her fear and anger, she gets her shoe and throws it at the drone. She ran barefoot to her home. Upon reaching her house, she immediately turned off her phone, packed some of her valuables and clothes, and left the place, never to return. Today, Mary lives in her family's farm. The trauma of living in the city was too much to bear. She assumed that her stalker worked in tech, and therefore, she felt it was no longer safe to keep any dating app or social network. While life on the farm is slow and mundane, it didn't bother Mary anymore. She at least had her peace of mind. The old man's voice and the buzzing sound of that drone no longer haunt her nightmares. Anna is fidgeting, anxious. Her suitcase is too full. She can't even close it properly. Yet, blanketing her bed, there are countless more pants and shirts waiting to be put in their place. At 30 years old, she's getting ready for her big break in the city. She will soon be part of a big marketing company, away from her small town. She puts on her colorful rainbow socks, knitted by her mom for the flight, then her shoes. She answers the phone. It's her uncle. Suddenly, her expression changes to surprise and confusion. "Sorry, I don't understand. I'm here at home." Her uncle sounds scared. He said that he had seen her in his house. She was on top of his stairs, crying. Then she went up to his room and he followed her. She was just gone. Anna replies, "That's impossible. He was far away in the Middle East, 7,000 miles away. He must have been imagining things." This is not the first time Anna has been spotted in various places where she isn't. People see her in random places all the time, even if she's not there. She recalled the time when she finished taking a bath. She went out of the bathroom and saw her mom staring at her, slack-jawed and stunned. "What's up?" she asked. "You just came out of the shower 2 minutes ago," the mom replied. It seems that the more time passes, spotting her double has become more common. A doppelgganger who seems to be harmless but quite creepy. She puts the phone down. "Anna," her mother called out to her. "Your taxi's waiting downstairs." In panic, she quickly sits on her suitcase and it closes. She tearfully hugs her mom. "Message me when you're about to board, okay?" "Sure, Mom. I'll miss you." And she runs down the stairs with her bag in tow. The airport is dark and quiet that night. She's quietly reading a book. Out of nowhere, a chill ran down her spine. It's that odd feeling of being watched. She looks around her, suspiciously. There's barely anyone there. Anna's flight is about to start the boarding process. Her mom sent her a text. "Take care, love." She smiled and quickly fixed her stuff. She looked down on her shoes and started tying her shoelaces. Then she stopped. Her breathing becomes heavy and her eyes widen in shock. A few steps away from her, she sees shoes and socks exactly like what she's wearing, but it's on someone else. She couldn't believe it. She raised her eyes to see who this person was, but the person walked away quickly. Anna bolted up from her bench, dropping some stuff on the floor. She sees the girl much further away from her. The girl from behind looks exactly like her. It's the same clothes, the same hair. It's like staring in a mirror, but from behind. Anna closed her eyes. Maybe she was dreaming. Maybe it's all in her head. But when she opens them, the girl is still walking quickly away from her. She decides to follow her. She follows her beyond the food stalls, beyond the stores, to a relatively empty hallway. Now, there's just two of them there. Anna calls to the girl. She doesn't respond. She walks closer. Now it's very clear. It is an exact copy of her. The other Anna stops in her tracks. The real Anna stands there, paralyzed. The woman turns to her. Her face is bloody, flesh torn off her cheeks, eye sockets empty, flesh rotten. The shock of Anna seeing her own face, that mangled, was too much. Everything goes dark as Anna faints. When she finally wakes up, close to midnight, she's surrounded by airport staff. She asked them if anyone saw the girl, but no one had any idea what she was talking about. From the CCTV footage of the airport, she was standing there all alone, and then she suddenly screamed and fainted. They tell her that she missed her flight and that the next flight with free seats is tomorrow night. She decides to take a cab home. Stressed and confused, she calls her mother. She tells her everything. Her mom, instead of sounding upset, just calmly tells her that they need to talk when she gets home. The cab stops at a gas station. The driver leaves the gas running as he goes to the bathroom. He leaves the radio on, playing some old school rock song. Anna rolls down the window to get some fresh air, but across the street, she is there again. The woman, her double, looking exactly like her, but this time without the blood, the gore. She has a happy expression on her face. Truck passes by on the road, blocking Anna's view. And just like that, the woman is gone. The song on the radio stops as there is breaking news. Anna could not believe what she was hearing. A combination of bad weather and human errors made a plane crash while it was en route to the city. It was her flight. She could have been in that crash. When she finally gets to her house, her mom welcomes her with open arms. Both women have tears in their eyes. When Anna finally calms down, she asked her mom if she could have any idea what's going on. And she did. Her mom brings out a small box. Inside the box are pictures and memories from her childhood, a small collection of their family history. The last is an ultrasound pic. This was when you were 3 months, her mom said. It showed twins, 2 fetuses huddled together. Anna realized the truth. She had a twin sister in the womb. Perhaps it was her twin sister looking after her. But there was one final detail. This was you after 6 months. There was only 1 fetus left. What happened to her? She asked her mom. She answered, the doctor calls it the vanishing twin. They say it happens with 20 to 30% of pregnancies with twins. One absorbs the other. You absorbed your twin, and she will always be part of you.